apologize and declare her contrition in front of a group of prominent scholars.
The newspaper kept their campaign going for week after week.
We publish the newspaper to have reaction. If you don't have reaction, you are a dead newspaper, right?
And he got a reaction. That second week, the paper had printed some responses from Islamic scholars and some readers' letters, one of which called for Nawal to be beheaded.
Listen, ma'am, when you publish something touching the beliefs of the people, the religion, a column of Islam religion, which is pilgrimage, do you expect me to keep silent when people are calling me every time, how about this, how about this, how about this, why don't you, Kaza? And we published in a way to protect her, not to inflammate the problem.
But how is printing a letter calling for her beheading protecting her?
I can't understand you.
You published a letter calling for her beheading. How is that protecting her?
Where? In our newspaper, beheading her?
Yes. That week, at the bottom of page 3, one of the letters read,
Nawal El Saadawi says things in her interview that don't just humiliate Islam, but also do not respect Allah the Greatest. We want her to be beheaded.
You claim to be a liberal newspaper, and you published a reader's letter calling for the beheading
I didn't see it up till now. I don't have it.
But as the editor, it doesn't matter if it's published in your newspaper. You are responsible for it.
No.
You can't deny
I'm not responsible for everything published in the newspaper. You can't follow everything. You can't follow.
But you'll be. I'm sorry, I find that quite difficult to take on board. This denial of editorial responsibility seemed both absurd and horrifying.
This was becoming really serious, you know. So I emailed her. I told her what was happening, and I told her, well, you know, for the time being, I think you shouldn't come back too quickly. Let's see what's going to happen.
Of course, I could have stayed away. I had already I have many offers to teach, to be a visiting professor, and you know. But I decided, in fact, it was my decision to come back. After discussing with Sharif, I said I'm coming back to Egypt.
Nawal returned to find that Sharif's worst fears had been realized. The newspaper had fueled the row by taking their version of the interview to the highest Islamic authority in the land, the Grand Mufti, knowing his views would guarantee wider public interest.
I can't publish one-side story, especially it touches the beliefs of the people. This is her opinion. I must respect her opinion. I published it honestly, and I can't publish one-side story. So we went to the Mufti.
ولذلك قلنا أن من ينسب إليه هذا الكلام.
So we said that whoever has uttered these words, if they still insist on what they say and admit that these words are theirs and deny certain important facts about religion which are part of their duties as Muslims, then she will be accountable under Islamic law. She has chosen to be a Muslim and no one has forced her into it. Therefore she has to abide by its rules.
The Mufti's response was clear. If the quotes were accurate, Nawal had indeed insulted Islam. One of Al-Maidan's readers decided to turn this into a legal prosecution. How did it go from being a sensationalist article in a newspaper to being taken up by a lawyer and taken to court?
That's it.
In a situation where there is cultural intolerance, where there is a lot of conservative Islamic thinking, and where there is a lot of fanaticism at the moment, he felt that this was a good opportunity for him to raise a case that would explode in the public eye and make him a kind of hero.
That hero was a lawyer named Nabi El-Wash. His infamous case against the British royal family for orchestrating the death of Princess Diana earned him just a few wry column inches in the world press, but in Egypt, his maverick court actions could do real harm. I asked him to explain why he'd invoked an obscure Islamic law to bring a case against Nawal.
As a Muslim, when there was no reaction from the departments concerned after Dr. El Saadawi published her views attacking the faith, I decided to bring a case against her.
Could you explain to me the exact phrase that has distressed you so much?
Firstly, her denial of the Hajj, which is one pillar of Islam. She categorically said that Hajj and the kissing of the black stone are remnants of paganism. She also denied a verse in the Quran which says that men are entitled to twice the inheritance of women. Who is she to demand equality? Is she greater than God?
In his self-appointed role as guardian of the faith, Nabi al-Wash had invoked the ancient Islamic law of Hisbah, commonly used in the 7th century to regulate market trading.
The believers, men and women, are protectors one of another. They enjoin what is just and forbid what is evil. They observe regular prayers, practice regular charity, and obey Allah and His Messenger.
Under Hisbah, any individual can sue another if they believe they are harming a person or religion.
The Hisbah law is not used at all. I'm the only woman in Islamic history that they applied Hisbah to it. You know, it's so ridiculous.
But she's not the only dissident thinker in recent history to face trial. Writers, filmmakers and political activists are all being criminalized for saying what they think. The recent trial of Dr. Saad Ibrahim, a distinguished academic with dual Egyptian-American citizenship, showed just how forcefully the state can silence unwanted critics. When he published evidence of electoral abuses, he was arrested. He was charged with bringing Egypt into disrepute and misappropriating an EU grant.
There are forces, and they are very powerful right now, who know that they will lose control. Members of the party, security forces, and others. And my husband symbolized for them everything that they hate. Independence of mind, refusal to be intimidated, and an articulateness that gave him a following. They're doing everything they can to hold on to the power that they have left. And terror is the method that they know best. If you imprison one professor of sociology with an American passport and a lot of important friends, you send a very chilling message to every other Egyptian.
After months of presenting a defense, the court returned a guilty verdict in just 1 hour. Dr. Ibrahim was sent to prison for 7 years. He's now appealing.
Nawal and Sharif have been friends of ours for many years, and I was fearful, frankly, for her life and her safety because of the history of attacks on people once they are publicly identified, as she now has been. However, I know her to be a very tough fighter.
Egypt is watching her case very closely. Unlike Saad Ibrahim, she is accused of religious, not political dissent. But many journalists are skeptical of Wash's motives. Is he really protecting Islam?
All his cases he's lost before, but always it's good enough for 3-4 paragraphs in front pages or in funny columns and stuff like that. So, and he succeeds in doing this, you know.
Dr. Saadawi is a very controversial character, and she's quite brave. And what she had to say, whether it's true or not, created a stir. And there was enough in there to keep responses going for a few weeks, and it was certainly boosting the circulation of the paper.
Do you think that's what it was all about?
Yes. Yeah.
But the end result was that a lawyer prosecuted Nawal using Hisbah.
Anybody can file a complaint, which is a constitutional right, but you have to go to the public prosecutor. Public prosecutor is the only authority that is competent to press charges and prosecute, and this is intended to eliminate abuse.
The public prosecutor